Today, I'm outside a very special site, the Mother Church of Catholics for England and Wales. That's right, Westminster Cathedral.
The cathedral is very much a 20th century project. It was consecrated in 1910. But the Lady Chapel is often a place people will come to spend some time in prayer, to bring their petitions to God, and especially through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin.
The thing that has absolutely amazed me about today's visit is the amount of people coming to this cathedral to access confession and go to adoration. Today, I'm outside a very special site. I'm outside the Mother Church of Catholics for England and Wales. That's right, Westminster Cathedral. This building behind me is full of absolute gems. It's full of treasures. So follow me as I explore. Oh, Father Brian.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yes, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I'm really looking forward to this. So, Father Brian, thank you so much for the warm welcome.
You're most welcome. It is very good to have you here. So here we are at the foot of the balustrade steps of the sanctuary and the high altar, which is the very heart of the life and worship of the cathedral here, as it has been since its foundation.
Right, and it's a very vibrant cathedral.
Indeed, yes. We have a wonderful community here, made up of all sorts of people who are visiting us and people who are regular parishioners. We have daily mass goers, plus a residential population around here as well.
Fantastic.
And since COVID, we have about 4,000 to 4,500 people who come through the doors on a Sunday, which is tremendous, really. And there's a real sense of returning in life. So we have here a full liturgical life, and we have 4 daily masses and masses on Sundays as well. So there's a wonderful sense of life and energy here in the cathedral.
Wow.
So.
And would you mind sharing with me, Father, some of the history to the cathedral?
Sure. The cathedral is very much a 20th century project. It was consecrated in 1910. And when you tell people that, often visitors, particularly from afar, are slightly surprised at that. And often people aren't aware of the difficult history of the English Catholic Church. But the revival of, or the renewed life of the Church after the restoration of the hierarchy in 1850 led to a great development in church building, and the new Diocese of Westminster needed its cathedral church. The architect John Francis Bentley was engaged to build this extraordinary building, which is unique. It's certainly unique in England in terms of its architectural style, and in some ways it's probably unique in the Latin Catholic tradition in Western Europe. This cathedral, which is the Neo-Byzantine style of architecture, with very, very strong influences from the East.
Right.
And in particular, if you walk around, as hopefully we'll have an opportunity to see some things, there's very strong echoes of Hagia Sophia in Istanbul and St Mark's and the Basilica in Venice. So the significant feature which catches people always is the beauty of the cathedral, and that's mostly made up of the marble and the stonework, but also the mosaics. And so it does have a strong Eastern feel, this extraordinary domed building there in Victoria Street. And that was quite deliberate. The planners, when they were deciding what sort of cathedral to build for this new diocese, which was re-erected, there was a great sense of Catholic confidence in England, which I think is a wonderful thing at that time. And in architectural styles, they considered various things, and they thought about, was it the right thing to have something of a neo-Gothic style building? And the consideration was, well, just down the road at the Abbey, we have a very fine example of the Gothic in the Abbey. And why would we compete with that? And the other great tradition of the Latin Church is the Basilica in the Baroque style, and with a dome and a large space, such as you have at St Paul's, which is an extraordinary building. And these two buildings in London are so iconic. It wasn't felt necessary to compete with those, but to have something different. They looked further afield, and the architect looked to the east, and the strong influence of particularly Byzantine architecture. And this had certain practical benefits, one of which was that it was it was relatively inexpensive to build.
Okay.
What we're standing in is essentially a big brick box, and you could get the walls up and the roof on in a relatively swift time, and this resurgent Catholic community could have their cathedral church in a relatively short time, and then all of the decoration and the beautification came afterwards, and this is a project which is still going on. And if we look around us, we see the bare domes in the brick behind us and above us. The vision one day is perhaps this also to be covered in mosaics. I suspect it's not going to be in your lifetime or mine, but it's part of that ongoing vision, that sense that each generation has something to contribute to this. Our Mother Church. This is the Mother Church of Catholics in England and Wales. And it's really lovely to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Father. Thank you for that, and for such an in-depth, kind of rich history that is here, like the distinct style, the Byzantine style, which makes it distinct from the Abbey, and also the future mosaics, please God.
Well, the nice thing is there's always something for the future, and it is an ongoing project. The artwork in the cathedral is permanently being addressed and looked at and changed, and our latest mosaic was only installed just before Christmas. We have a mosaic of St Augustine in a panel, which I can show you later, which is the newest addition to the art of the cathedral. And as we stand here, one important thing to note, a small plaque which you see in the floor here, and this commemorates the visit of Pope St John Paul II when he came here to the cathedral. And often we find pilgrims come and they pause at this point and recognise that wonderful connection, ongoing connection with the Holy See. So after here, we might move over to the more intimate space of the Cathedral Lady Chapel. This is the chapel which is dedicated, as is tradition of many Catholic churches and cathedrals, to the Blessed Virgin, and the mosaics there are particularly fine, and the artwork helps us to meditate on the life of the Virgin Mary, and there's a whole catechesis in art there.
Great.
So we might make our way over there and begin the rest of the tour. Okay. Well, it is wonderful to have you with us.
So here we are, Father, the beautiful Lady Chapel.
So the Lady Chapel here in the cathedral is magnificent. It's one of the parts of the cathedral which has the most complete mosaic work. And it's really the centre of devotion and a lot of the spiritual life of what goes on in the cathedral. We obviously have daily mass, and we have people who come here to celebrate the sacraments, but the Lady Chapel is often a place people will come to spend some time in prayer, to bring their petitions to God, and especially through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin. And it's fabulously decorated, as you can see. There's so much going on here. And around the base of the panels, you see the life of Mary and her relationship with her son in a sort of almost a cartoon series around the side. And the other nice thing here, this is the chapel where we also commemorate the female saints. So we have St. Agatha and St. Lucia, Santa Lucia and St. Justina, and these, so all of this here. And people spend time here because of a great Catholic devotion to the Blessed Virgin, and it's one of those places where there is time and there's space and quiet. And we celebrate Mass here, at least pre-pandemic we used to celebrate Mass here regularly in the Lady Chapel. Yeah. At the altar here, and we hope that maybe that was something we can resume. But very close to where we're standing here also is where the particular apostolate of the cathedral takes place. We have here in the cathedral a particular apostolate of mercy. There's being a central London church, as all around the world I think, cathedrals and central churches. We offer the sacraments of the sacrament of confession, reconciliation, when people come regularly, and they come from far afield and sometimes not so far afield, to have their confession heard here, and it's very much part of what we do in the life of the cathedral. We keep a sort of running tally of people who come through the doors in terms of numbers, because we're just interested to know the life of the cathedral and its day to day, especially since COVID. But the confessional queue is a bit, as I say, it's a particular apostolate, and sometimes maybe not yourself, but people might queue for up to an hour perhaps to have their confession heard, and the chaplains here will all hear an hour of confessions each day, and has traditionally been very much part of what we do. But simultaneous to that, we also have the Catholic devotion to our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament, which is absolutely centre of our faith and absolutely centre of what we do. So after the lunchtime Mass, we expose the Lord for veneration in the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, which is the chapel behind me to the other side of the cathedral. We have several hours of adoration, and we conclude that with benediction before the evening Mass daily. Again, it's one of those very simple devotional things that Catholics take so much heart from, and there is always people here through the day, and sometimes as a priest you come out to celebrate a benediction at the end of the day, and I'm sometimes surprised by how many people have gathered for this short ceremony benediction at the end of the period of adoration. So these two things form the daily life of the cathedral. Obviously we have the daily masses. We have 4 masses each day, and the confessional continues, I would say, independent of that, but parallel to. And in particular, on a Sunday, we have an increased hours of confession. We do our best before the great seasons before the great festivals of Christmas and Easter to increase our provision. Of course, that depends on the priests who are available to hear confessions. And we would. When I first arrived here, there was a priest said to me, he said, "Listen, if you spend a few years here with us, you'll hear more confessions here than you will in the next 20 years." And he was probably right.
Is that true?
He's probably right. It's probably right because it's just a particular apostolate, and people know they can come here, and it's they don't have to wait for Father to be available, and often it's anonymous, and that's a really very attractive thing. And people from all walks of life and ages come to us with their burdens, and well, they don't come to us; they come to the Lord with their burdens, and it's a tremendously fruitful ministry here. And so long may it continue. When the cathedral was first founded, we had 18 chaplains on the staff here. The life of the cathedral was very different then, and there was a different set of duties. We're now a team of 7 priests, and 3 of us have additional duties given to us by the Cardinal as well. These are just, it's the reality, of a changed world, but we do what we can, and it's always it's wonderful and it's a particular, as I say, a particular apostolate. But I think it's a feature of inner city. You said earlier you'd been in St. Patrick's in New York.
Yes,
right. I think it's a feature of inner city churches, isn't it? And certainly, if you've been on holiday, often you might seek out an inner city church for confession.
But it's fantastic that we're in the heart of London here, and the busyness of London and everything that's going on in London. but the amount of people that still come through them doors to access the sacraments is really refreshing.
It really
isn't it?
is, absolutely. Yes, we are on the tourist trail, and we do get plenty of visitors who are just interested. They see this grand building and they look around and they're taken in by it. But on the other hand, the vast majority of visitors don't come to wander around and be tourists. They come here to say their prayers, to attend Mass, for a bit of peace and quiet, to receive the sacraments and go on their way. And it's tremendously heartening. And here, in the cathedral, we are open at 7:30 in the morning and we're closed at 7 o'clock in the evening. And in the winter months particularly, when the big glass doors open, coming across the piazza when there's light on inside, especially on a dull December day, there's something very welcoming here in the cathedral, and we hope that will continue, and we can be able to continue to provide that.
Yes. Anyone watching, you're certainly encouraging them to visit here, so please God they do. Yes,
absolutely. And it is a place to visit, certainly. Right. But it's definitely and fundamentally a place of prayer and devotion. And there are. Maybe we'll find some of them as we go around, but there are some little small corners of the cathedral where people like to find a little corner, completely anonymous, and just spend their time with God, and it's always lovely to see, and you never ever find the cathedral empty.
I'm hoping to find a couple of them before I leave. So
indeed, well certainly the chapel dedicated to the Sacred Heart, the other side of the Blessed Sacrament Chapel is one of those, and everyone's got their favourite spot.
So Father, you mentioned some of these hidden gems, hidden treasures. Where do you recommend I go next?
We have adoration of the Blessed Sacrament in the Blessed Sacrament Chapel until 4:30 this afternoon. Of course, you're very welcome to join us. But just the other side of the Blessed Sacrament Chapel is the chapel dedicated to the Sacred Heart, which is a little hidden corner which you often find people sitting there. There are places which appeal to different people. So please feel very free to wander through the cathedral. It's been absolutely delightful to have you here and to welcome you to the cathedral. It's one of the things we love to do here. We have a whole team of a guild of guiders who are very happy to welcome. We saw earlier there was some children here from the school group, and welcoming is something we love to show off. We're very proud of our beautiful cathedral, but also to have visitors come and to find time to spend with God, and some peace in, as you say, a very busy life. So Neil, it's been really wonderful.
Thank you so much, Father, for the welcome,
and thank you and your
the
team
hospitality.
You're most welcome,
and I'm looking forward to exploring.
Please do.
And please God, I'll see you again when I'm back.
Indeed, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Father.
All right, God bless you. Bye.
As I walked from chapel to chapel, I was reminded of the words of St. Paul when he says, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." I was also contemplating the words of Mother Teresa of Calcutta when she says, "I worry some of you have not really met Jesus, one-to-one, you and Jesus alone. He loves you, but even more, he longs for you." As Christians, the Eucharist makes very clear the level of intimacy into which God wants to draw us. In the Eucharist, we become one with the object of our love. In the chapel of St. George and the English martyrs are the relics of St. John Southworth. In 1654, he was condemned to death after being found guilty of being a Catholic priest, and he was to be hung, drawn, and quartered. Among his last words, he says, "My faith is my crime, the performance of my duty, the occasion of my condemnation. Ultimately, John Southworth knew that his true treasure wasn't on earth, but in heaven.
The thing that has absolutely amazed me about today's visit is the amount of people coming to this cathedral to access confession and go to adoration. Why do thousands of people come through them doors every single year? They come to experience a freedom. Let me ask you this, my friends. Your own freedom, where does it come from? My friends, no matter where you are at in life, don't be afraid to start over. Don't be afraid to open that door of your heart and ask Him to increase His freedom within you. Christianity is not an idea. It's a living, personal relationship. God is a person who created us individually and loves us personally. God wants to bring your heart to greater freedom. So my friends, open that door of your heart and give Him permission.